Hi everyone. Nathan messaged me at the start of the week to ask me a few questions about my personal journey and walk with Jesus up to this point. So I've written down the questions that he asked and I thought I'd just try and answer them. So the questions are: what was I like before? My journey to finding Jesus, how I became a Christian and what I understood, and then what has changed since becoming a Christian. Now, this is a difficult one for me because usually I like to be the best at things that I put my mind to. So when Nathan sent me through this, straight away I was thinking, I'll put together a presentation, I'll write a long script, I'll memorise the script, I'll make sure that it comes across in the right way. And that's through years and years of just relying on myself and my own steam. And the big realisation, I guess, when I came to Christ was that I can't rely on my own steam. The only thing that I can rely on in this life is Jesus and God's grace and God's love and God's provision. So this is me freestyling my testimony rather than relying on a previously constructed piece of work. So what was I like before? I was a bit of a mess. So as a child, I'd been around churches, I'd been around Christians, or what I deemed to be Christians, and there were people who my parents might drop me off at Sunday school to get a bit of respite from me. I was quite a lively child. And these people, to be fair, didn't represent who I was and didn't speak passionately, particularly about Jesus, or particularly in a way that didn't communicate with me or resonate with me. So that plus some of my family being Christian who weren't deemed as the most exciting of relatives gave me a reasonably negative perception of what a Christian was, and that they didn't have fun and they just read. They read and prayed, but then literally the rest of the time they were somber. So obviously no, that's not true now. My journey to finding Jesus, so through my teen years and well up until late 20s, early 30s, I had a very disordered relationship with alcohol, and realised quite late in the day that I was an alcoholic. Ended up going to rehab. And at rehab, they always talk about, it's the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous, and they talk about God, but they don't talk about God as in, if God is God to you, then that's great. But if not, it's good orderly direction. And at that point in my life, I was happy to accept that it was just good orderly direction, I still hadn't made my mind up on God. Never atheist, always wanted to believe there was something there. To be honest, I just didn't want to put the work into finding out about it and then having to live my life in accordance with it, which I think a lot of people are in the same boat as, who are non-believers. So I became an alcoholic. I went into recovery, and then probably about a year and a half into my recovery, life was good. I had my house, that was nice. I had Holly, who's the most amazing wife. I had a baby on the way. My job was great. Everything that probably I'd hoped for. But I remember walking the dog and thinking, there's got to be more to life than this. There was an emptiness, and I didn't know what it was. So I went home, I spoke to Holly and said, look, I think I need to look into who this Jesus is. And it's something that I'd struggled with before, a lot down to family perception around it as well. So Holly said, well, I've been having similar thoughts, and I've arranged to speak to Ellie. So long story short, myself and Holly went to speak to Ellie and Nathan, asked a few questions, asked a few more questions, and have spent 2.5 years asking more and more questions, and there's still a massive list, and I think there always will be for the rest of my life. The big thing for me was I never wanted to, I think the phrase that I used was, I don't want to become Cliff Richard, and that's still true. I don't want to, but I now know that I don't have to. No one's trying to force me to become Cliff Richard. And the most difficult thing for me, about being a Christian, I find, is that every other thing in my life, if I put my mind to it, I can be the best at it. And that's obviously through the gifts that God has given me. And it took me a long time to realise that. But at work, I've worked my way up the ladder, promoted numerous times. With music and singing, I've been in bands for years. The bands have always been good. I've always performed well, all of that kind of thing. But with Christianity, I've spent 2.5 years trying to pick up the Bible, read other books, ask questions, and constantly feel like I'm not quite good enough at it. And that's a difficult thing for me to get my head around, but it's one that I pray about every day. I spoke to Nathan quite a bit about, I feel that my relationship with Jesus and my relationship with God is one and the same, obviously, it's like a mobile phone signal. And some days I feel like I've got full signal. I can make any call that I want. I spend all my time in prayer. I read, and I'm a good ambassador for what a Christian is. And then on other days, I feel like my signal bar's down at 1 and I struggle to even get a connection. I think the important thing for me is that I keep fighting for the connection. So what's changed since becoming a Christian? I try to give myself a break a bit more. And I know that the focus of my life isn't what I can get out of it, but what I can bring to others, and what I can know about Jesus, and how I can walk with him, and how I can be a better servant to him. I'd like to tell you that it's a really easy path, and that I've found it really easy to navigate, and that I've been full of the fruits of the Spirit since walking with Christ. But the truth is that it fluctuates, and sometimes I feel like hugely connected, like I said, and other times I really struggle. But it's the people around me that I choose to surround myself with now, and having that fellowship that then brings me back on to the right path. And when I get back on the right path, it's important for me to know that Jesus is already there waiting for me. So that's my testimony. I've probably left bits out. I've probably done a substandard job if I were to script it. However, I know that it's probably not substandard, and it hopefully will reach one person, because I prayed before it. I gave it to the Lord, and I know that He's got it. Thank you. Bye.